Beware of the Greys. Physically, the Nordics looked like humans, only they were larger in stature, about 7 to 8 feet tall. They spoke perfect, sweet-sounding English but with an accent. Their speech was conveyed more mentally than verbally. There was telepathic communication, Sala says. It's as though you're hearing a person, but they're not speaking. The technology they put on display defied belief. During my 2-day visit, I saw 5 separate and distinct types of aircraft being studied and handled by our Air Force officials, with the assistance and permission of the Ephesians. When the aliens demonstrated their ability to become invisible along with mental telepathy, everyone there was terrified. The ability to disappear, an ability based on pure physics, not magic, and to communicate using thought. Not all history is recorded, and not all history is known. Hence, we will probably never know the details of the day-long meeting between the President and the Nordic aliens. What we do know is that the Nordic nations warned humans about the aliens, the Greys, circling the equator, and warned them not to interact with them because they were a sinister race that would cause untold harm to both Earth and the human population. In fact, the Nordic aliens proposed an alliance with Earthlings to combat the Greys and promised to assist us in our spiritual development. They insisted, however, that an alliance with us would be possible only if the United States and every other country on the planet gave up their nuclear weapons and other armaments programs. The Nordic aliens also offered Earthlings very advanced technology for their own good as opposed to the destruction of mankind. The Nordics offered to share their superior technology and their spiritual wisdom with the President if he would agree to eliminate America's nuclear weapons, says Sala. They were afraid we might blow up some of our nuclear technology, and apparently that does something to time and space, and it impacts extraterrestrial races on other planets. It was a no deal. The President rejected the Nordic overture because he did not like the idea of getting rid of nuclear weapons. Apparently, he didn't trust the Nordics. What if it was all a ruse, and all they wanted to do was eventually seize control of the planet? The Nordics advised that President think the matter over again and leave. But not before they reiterated the warning, beware of the Greys. Later in 1954, a race of large gray aliens that had been orbiting the Earth landed at Holloman Air Force Base. A basic agreement was reached. This race identified itself as originating from a planet around a red star in the constellation of Orion, which we called Betelgeuse. They stated that their planet was dying and that, at some unknown future time, they would no longer be able to survive there. The meeting at Holloman Air Force Base in New Mexico has reportedly been the site of subsequent extraterrestrial encounters with the same extraterrestrials who signed the 1954 treaty with the United States government. The treaty stated that the aliens would not interfere in our affairs and we would not interfere in theirs. We would keep their presence on Earth a secret. They would furnish us with advanced technology and would help us in our technological development, which was not their true intention. They would not make any treaty with any other Earth nation. They could abduct humans on a limited and periodic basis for affairs, pose of medical examination, and monitoring of our development, again, not their true intention, with the stipulation that the humans would not be harmed, and would be returned to their point of abduction, would have no memory of the event, and that treaties nation other nation on supple acknowledge. Government with a list of all human contacts and abductees on a regularly scheduled basis, which is totally idiotic to think that these aliens would actually do that. Back in 1954, under the Eisenhower administration, the federal government decided to circumvent the Constitution of the United States and form a treaty with alien entities. It was called the 1954 Grenada Treaty, which basically made the agreement that the aliens involved could take a few cows and test their implanting techniques on a few human beings, but that they had to give details about the people involved. What do we know about the gray extraterrestrials that signed the treaty? The nature of the Greys, especially the Zeta Reticuli and the short Greys, is that they do not have deep emotional feelings or compassion. They are, in fact, extremely curious about all aspects of existence, highly analytical, technology worshippers, and devoid of sentimentality. They look at humans much the same way a farmer looks at his cows, as an inferior species. The Greys were not trustworthy. By 1955, it became obvious that the aliens had deceived Eisenhower and broken the treaty. The US government received less than the technology they had hoped for and discovered that the abductions exceeded their expectations by a millionfold. The aliens were not submitting any lists of human abductions, and on top of that, not all abductees were being returned. In fact, abductions occur on a daily basis throughout the United States, affecting at least 10% of the population. These unfortunate citizens are taken from the streets and returned 45 minutes to an hour later with their rectums cored out, their genitals removed, their eyes removed from the sockets, and their bodies completely drained of blood. In all cases, it appears that the mutilation procedures occur while the individuals are still alive and conscious. American scientists speculate that the specimens have to be alive for the samples to be worth anything. Remember, folks, the Greys were the alien beings that the benevolent human-looking extraterrestrials warned us about during the meeting with President Eisenhower. By associating with regressive alien entities such as the Greys, which are thousands of years ahead of us technologically and have no sympathy or regard for human life and therefore are able to inflict great harm, to the US government, with its never-ending greed for power, surrendered the sovereignty of our planet and the freedom of its citizens to these beings who see us as merely lab rats for their use in order to improve the condition of their own race. The decision to not listen to our human-looking ET friends, who had only good intentions toward us, was a costly mistake. The treaty that was signed with the Greys was basically a treaty to enslave the Earth's human race, signed by the U.S. government and this regressive race of Grey space aliens. The human race of the planet Earth is now subject to Grey control in every possible way, and if you think this is not the case, just think that if the U.S. government, the government of the most powerful nation on Earth, is at its mercy, what does this mean to you as a human being subject to the rules of such a government?